All right, hey, welcome to another episode of Coach P's Perspective. I'm pumped. I have an elite wrestler and elite coach on here, Coach Joe Betterman, who was one of our top Greco wrestlers in the nation, multi-time national champion, was part of the Army Elite Wrestling Program, which is a phenomenal program. He is the owner of Betterman Elite Wrestling Club, just putting out champions, and then he is the owner of Gold Medal Gear. And we're going to talk about all those things, but Joe, thanks for being on. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
I'd love to be on here. It's awesome. Thank you for having me, and super humbled, to be able to come on here and talk with you.
Yes, sir. So, well, let's do this. Tell us about your background and where you grew up, how you got into wrestling, and if you did any other sports growing up too. It's always good to mention.
Well, I didn't start wrestling until high school, so I played basketball and baseball growing up. I thought I was gonna be in the NBA, and then I just stopped growing. I should have known that when I look at my mom and she's 5'1", and now I'm 5'3", so it didn't, it wasn't in the cards for me. But I started wrestling my freshman year in high school, and didn't win a match. I'm from Chicago, inner city. Uh, my coach said, "Hey, you need to do freestyle and Greco." And then I said, okay. And I started doing that and made the Fargo team my freshman year. Nobody was at my weight. I was at 83 and a half pounds. Lost in the blood rounds. And then little by little, I was like, man, I'm not training for state. I'm training for Fargo. And so I just started putting more time into freestyle and Greco and training year round. And eventually my senior year, I took sixth in state in Illinois. And then it was only 2A back then, 1A and 2A, and we were double A. And then I was fifth at Fargo my junior year in high school. Um, Ended up going to Northern Michigan. I got a full ride offer from Ivan Ivanov, and then didn't score a point in the room for 6 months. And then after that, I'd ask Ivan every day, "Can you work with me every day?" And he would. And then I won the junior nationals, made the world team, and second at universities that first year. And then little by little, just start climbing the ladder. And I ended up winning 8 national titles. Four at the senior level and two junior to university, and won the Olympic trials and made two world teams. So I can't complain for the senior worlds, but it's been a ride.
Yeah, it's amazing. You started wrestling as a freshman and did all that. This is a sport where I've had a couple of guys come through my program that we got them out as freshmen. And one kid ended up being a 4-time placer, had over 100 wins in high school. Another kid 3-time placer, but those guys were rare, to be able to do that. So starting so late and then going on and being a multi-time national champion, one of the best wrestlers in the world it's crazy. Let's talk real quick about, going to college and doing Greco, right? Because that's a route that a lot of people maybe don't even know exists or they haven't explored. So what led you to go that route?
After I placed at Fargo my junior year, I was top 10 in freestyle every year. I lost in the blood rounds every year. I placed in Greco my junior year. I had a lot of letters for colleges. I think it was like 300 letters my senior year. And I was gonna go wrestle D3 at this Division 3 school, Whitewater, Wisconsin. My coach was an Olympian for Puerto Rico, Carmelo Flores. He actually he actually went to that school too. Was a 2-time All-American. I was like, I'm just gonna follow that route and do that. And his old coach was there, and then all of a sudden I was at Fargo, and Yvonne came up to me, and I had just lost in the blood rounds, and I guess he had been watching me wrestle, and he said, I could teach you all the technique in the world, but I can't teach you to be aggressive. He's like, you're a very aggressive wrestler. I'll offer you a full ride scholarship. And that was it. The rest was history. In my head, I was like, well, I can go and be an NCAA champ at D3, which would be awesome. But those are a dime a dozen. Even at Division 1, they happen every single year. Or I said, I could go and put it all in this and take a gamble and try to be an Olympic champ, be an Olympian and Olympic champ, and I'll be remembered in history long, I'll be a legend kind of thing. So I was like, well, I want to go after this one, the one that's the harder route. And, it was fun. It was a great time. I was very fortunate to get that offer.
Yeah, excellent offer. And then, like you said, you walked in and don't score a point for 6 months. How do you get yourself? Because, let me back up real quick. A lot of times you get kids that are, and we're fortunate, we send quite a few guys to wrestle in college, and a lot of my coaching staff wrestled in college, and we could all tell you when you very first go to college, you're going to take some whoopings. And a lot of times guys are used to being the top dog in the room, or at least one of the best in the room. Then they walk in and now all of a sudden everyone's really good, and you're going to take some whoopings. And a lot of guys just say, this isn't for me, and they walk away. but especially if you're not scoring a point for 6 months, how do you get through mentally? And what was the mindset that allowed you just to keep going until you started scoring points and becoming successful?
Well, I guess I can, they had high school kids that would come in once in a while, so I get a little confidence booster, or they would have like a walk on. This one kid from Florida would come in, but on the other scholarship kids, I wasn't scoring on. They're beating the crap out, and these guys were already national champs.
Yeah,
Fargo and stuff like that. And I thought, I was hot stuff. I had some friends just talk me off the ledge sometimes too. I remember once the kid that was walked on, a Florida kid, I used to beat him up all the time, and he wrecked me in one match. We'd have matches every Friday. He wrecked me. I'm in tears. I'm all bloodied up. My nose is all bloodied up. It's cold out in northern Michigan. I go outside. There's snow everywhere. I'm in my singlet. I'm crying on the stairs. I'm like, I'm done. And Joe Usolini and Matt Stengline actually came outside, these guys, and they came and talked to me like, you're not done, Joe. You're the hardest worker. Just get back in there. Well, next time I went back in there, we did a grind match, and I scored like 60 points. I didn't let that kid score 1 point. I beat the crap out of him. We had some really good guys in the room. Joe Espinoza at the time was a monster at the senior level, and he just reverse lift me and power bomb me. I get back up and run, do it. And I just kept remembering, I just got to keep working hard, and I'm going to catch these guys. I was almost being delusional. Just like in high school, I thought I was like, even when I wasn't winning any matches my first year, I'm like, well, my coach said to do X, Y, and Z. And that's why I put the trust in the coach. I said, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be the best. And then I started imagining that I was the best wrestler, even if I wasn't. I go into matches against state champs thinking, man, I'm going to wreck this guy. And, and maybe I'd lose, but it'd be close. And then all of a sudden he'd remember me in the next match. I would be able to get the edge on him a little bit. Just having a good support system. I did have some friends. They talked me off the ledge. There were a couple times in my career where I almost retired. Thinking 2010, I almost retired. I was at the Olympic Training Center living there, and we went to Sweden, to Belarus and Sweden. Belarus first, wrestling this duels, this big dual cup thing. They were giving prize money if the dual team won. Well, the U.S. won two matches out of the whole. We had 6 matches. We had 6 duels, and we won 2 matches. I didn't win any. I got ripped apart. We get to Sweden, the tournament, and I'm getting destroyed by their guy that I was beating up at a camp in the U.S. back in November. I'm getting murked. I'm like, man, what is going on? I'm wasting my time. I should be doing other things. I'm not doing the right things if I'm getting my butt whooped like this. And Momir at the time, Momir was my coach, and he said, just trust the process. Be at peace. He was telling me be at peace all the time in his Serbian accent. And then I ended up winning the Swedish tournament. I won that 3 times. I think I had 33 international medals at the senior level, which was awesome. I just didn't get it done at Worlds or the Olympics. I wish I'd have got one there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then, to hear the perseverance, and again, like you said, having a good support system. Sometimes people think like, I got to do it all. I got to do it all. I got to do it all. And they're not thinking about all those other people that are around them that pour into them or help them, because you absolutely have to have that. It's just critical. But that's a life lesson as well, right? We have to have that in every area of life.
It's an individual sport, but it's really a team sport. It's a family. That's the one thing I like about Greco more than any of the styles is it's very it's a small niche. It's a small group, and it's very family oriented. You could be mad at the guy. You could be pissed. You could be upset with this guy, but it's like being brothers. Brothers, and just like Ivan was like a dad to me, like another father to me. Me and him would get in arguments all the time. But if I ever need anything, or Ivan ever needs anything, or any of my teammates need anything, now if they called me, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to come and talk to me, those guys, but they did. And I wouldn't probably have the career that I have now if they didn't. Who knows?
Yeah. Now tell me about the Elite Athlete Program. How did you get connected with the Army?
WCAP, actually, the World Class Athlete Program, started recruiting me in 2004. And I graduated high school in 2002, and I was in the Olympic trials in 2009, 2004. That was my first one. I was 19 years old. And then I just I thought about it, and I was like, oh, it's not the time. And then 4 years later, 2008, they're recruiting me again, thought about it again, and it wasn't the right, time. God, things happen for a reason, and God does things for a reason, right? And 2012 comes around. I'm married to Deanna Rick. It used to be Deanna Ricks. Now, obviously she has my last name. She's a former world team member twice too, and fifth in the world in freestyle. And she gets pregnant right before the Olympic trials. We find out, and so she doesn't get to wrestle. And I'm like, man, I got to do something. I was already with a great a sponsor. I was with Sunkiss, and I know they would have took care of me and things like that. But I was like, I got to do something where my family's going to be financially stable, and we're going to have insurance, right? Health insurance. That's a big thing, right? Because I'm going to have a kid. And when I was number one, the most money I made in a year, because they only give you $1,000 a month, if you're with USA Wrestling, but you got to be consistent, placing internationally and doing camps. I think the most money I made was 40 grand in a year for me, and I was like, that's not going to do it, So I was like, I need something with stability. So I called up the WCAP coaches. They had talked to me again, and I ended up joining WCAP. I let Sunkiss know, and they were okay with it too. They understood, and you know, I've been fortunate to be a part of like so many different programs, like Northern Michigan for 6 years with Yvonne. And then I left and I went to Momir and Steve Frazier at the OTC for 4 years. And then I went to WCAP for my last 3 years of my career with Sean Lewis and Bruce there. And, it was kind of like the icing on the cake, going into that program. And now like I'm a retired veteran. I get taken care of. I got health care still for my family, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of that program. But I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have went any earlier, even though maybe I'd have got my 20-year retirement or whatever. But I'm happy with how things played out. But great program WCAP is, and they're very family oriented. And every program I've been has been like that, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, whenever you go into the world class athlete program, what are some of the steps? What are some of the things? I'm currently doing a military series here on my podcast, and had a lot of spec ops guys on that are just incredible to speak with. But there's a lot of coaches and athletes that listen to this, and so maybe people looking at different options or considering. So, what does that consist of?
Well, I was fortunate because I already had the credentials right to get in.
Yeah.
They have a credential process where you have to be, a certain level to get in. That doesn't really stop you. Like I have a lot of kids that are young that I coach now, and they're like, well, I want to be in WCAP, eventually. I said, well, we don't have the credentials right now. So why don't we do this? Why don't we join the National Guard, do our 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, and then train full time? I'll, train with WCAP full time, but you're not going to be on active duty orders yet. This way we're working to our credentials, so, and here in Colorado, I mean, they give you almost $14,000 a year for tuition, the National Guard. Plus you get paid monthly. You're 1 week in a month, you're 2 weeks in the summer, and then you can do ROTC and get paid even more. So I try to push kids that route. The route I took is I went National Guard. They pulled me from National Guard to active duty orders once I finished AIT. And then I was in, but I had already been on the Olympic team and made 2 world teams and, had all these, I was already number one in the country. But for the young kids that like these 18-year-old kids out of high school, I mean, that's a better scholarship opportunity than going into just a regular college. You could still go to regular college, do the Army National Guard, right? I picked those guys over the reserves or the or even active duty or any of the other services because they could only give you $4,000 a year, and for tuition. When the National Guard gives you 4 plus, another, almost $10,000.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits to the National Guard when it comes to the state stuff. But do that. Go to the college you want to go to. Let's say you want to go to Penn State and walk on the team, but you're good enough to get up there, but they can't give you money, for school. They barely give 10%, 20% scholarships because they have some monsters there. Well, the National Guard will pay 14 grand at your school. You can't complain, right? And you're getting paid monthly too. You're getting extra, 300 and something dollars a month in your pocket, if not more. So up to $600 a month. You do ROTC, it's like another 1,000. So that would be the route that I would tell people to do. The hard thing is you can't go directly into WCAP.
Yeah.
We have some talks where we're trying to create like a university program. We're out of high school. We pick up guys and they go into National Guard. They train full time with WCAP or kind of halftime, and then they train with the university level coach. And then they still are able to hit college opens if they want to do that route. They can definitely go and wrestle at another school if they wanted to, but they can hit college opens if they want to stay in Colorado Springs and train. They can get just trained Greco, or if they're girls, right, they can hit college opens. And then, I put 3 girls into WCAP this year that are 18, 19 years old. So, but they, I've been very fortunate because they had some credentials before they got up there. They were cadet world team members and Fargo champs, but definitely a great route to take. Sets you up for success after wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's excellent information. That's information again. A lot of people just kind of think like, hey, I got to go directly to college. I gotta get a scholarship from this college, and they don't realize that there are other opportunities out there, and you get to serve your country, which is amazing.
Oh, for sure. And I think, and this is my opinion that like how it's done overseas is in like Russia, or I mean, that's probably a hot topic, but like Bulgaria, any of the country overseas, they serve for 2 years after they turn 18.
Mhm.
You know, I really think that we should probably be similar to that. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to go to war. You're in there for 2 years, you're serving in the war. It means you're just serving the military so you understand the world a little bit more and you understand the government and how it works. Um, and a lot of those foreign countries, they'll end up wrestling for the military, just like how we have it.
Yeah.
But I think we should create something like that, down the road.
Yeah, no, that would be a good idea. And I know, yeah, I would say the majority of the world does something very similar to that. So,
Teaches you how to grow up real quick too.
yeah,
So
yeah. All right. So let's talk about, post competition career, you go into coaching. Was there a point where you knew, hey, I think I want to go on to be a coach, or were you looking at other options?
I started coaching, I did like Fargo and stuff and some private coaching, starting like '04. I mean, I remember I was coaching Team Ohio and David Taylor was an eighth grader, in '04. It was wild, to sit there and coach guys like that or be around guys like that, being on that coaching staff with them. And now they're monsters now, which is really cool to see, because you see them as a little kid. Um, but I didn't start club coaching until 2013. Um, we were doing like some private lessons. I had some mats in my basement and we do some private lessons, supplement income. And then I had these parents start asking me like, hey, why don't you start a folk style club? Start a wrestling club. I'm like, I'm probably not primarily freestyle Greco, but I can do it. And so we started with 6 kids, my wife and I, in our basement and created Betterman Elite. And that first year I was traveling, competing everywhere and she was coaching. It was actually called Joe Betterman Airlines, JBA Elite at first. And she's like, you got to change the name of this club because I'm not going to coach it. And I said, okay. So we made it Betterman Elite. And then we went from 6 to now we have like 90 in the club. Obviously not out of my basement no more. And we have, we're actually not even, we started as an LLC and now we are a 501c3 as of this past year, because I don't even take a paycheck. All the money goes to pay for the bills of the building. We pay $4,000 just for rent a month, plus utilities and all that stuff, and then we actually own 3 vehicles. I have a charter bus that's 56 passenger.
Wow.
That's for our club. And then we have a school bus and then we have a van, so we got all these different payments and stuff. But the transition to coaching, I was still competing and I was like, man, I started coaching and I started learning from coaching while I was competing, which was really cool. I teaching technique and I'm like, oh, well, I'm missing that step myself. I'm breaking it down in my mind, but then I'm not breaking it down for myself. I'm like, oh, I got to add that to my tools, and it made me a better wrestler. You know, it's for me, for like Greco, it's like a soft spot. Like I think we could be the best country in the world again, like we were in '07 when I was on that world team that won the worlds. Um, but I really feel like at the grassroots, we got to get these kids and coaches more familiar with Greco. Um, and then same with freestyle. I mean, if we want to continue to be dominant, we just got to put the right thought process in these kids' head. It's not about winning when they're 7 years old or 10 years old or even in high school. For me, like I coach because it's like a savings account. I want to see these kids prosper when they're at the NCAAs or at the Olympic level. Those are the two that I'm coaching for.
Yeah.
And if we reach that high, that's my philosophy. You reach all the way up there and train for that, all these other things are going to fall below. You reach to be a state champ in high school, you might fall short. I would say about 90% of the time you might end up falling short, and only being a state placer or a state qualifier. But if I reach to be a national champ, then state's going to happen. If I reach to be an Olympic champ or world champ, whatever age level, right, then all these other things are going to happen below it. So, and that's just the philosophy that I've taken, and it's been really good. Our kids have done really well. We just got back from Kansas City from the high school showcase qualifier, and I had 11 out of 12 qualify, which was awesome. I had, I think, 3 champs, which was another cool thing, so, um, but yeah, I love it. It's been awesome to be able to get back to these kids. And then now I see some of them at the senior level, and that's been great as well.
Yeah, I know one of my college coaches, I remember him saying while we were in college, I wish every college wrestler could have a year off to go coach and then come back and compete. They would be a better wrestler. And I
Yep.
remember I didn't fully understand it at the time. And then once I graduated and I started coaching, it didn't take me long to understand. Like it came back to my mind, like, oh, I'm a better wrestler now because of that. There were
Yeah.
definitely things I was missing when I was competing that now I see as a coach. So looking at your club, starting with novice kids working up through these elite kids, what are some of the things that you guys are trying to teach them? Not as far as technique, but as far as character goes, as far as work ethic, some of the things that we learn along the way in the sport of
Well, the
wrestling.
big things I preach is like hard work beats talent, in the long run. Um, I want to teach them good hard work and ethics. I want them to be not only great wrestlers, but I want them to become great people, great young men and women in society. I want them to become a 1%. When you think about like at the top tier of society, I want them to say, well, I'm going to train so hard that everything else when in life is going to be easy. And
Mhm.
Dan Gable says that, right? Everything else in life is easy after you wrestled. Um, it's the same thing. I want them to train so hard. We might not all be the 4-time state champs or whatever it may be, but everyone that leaves my room, if they go and work at whatever job they do, I want them to be the manager eventually. Or I want them to be the owner. I don't want them to be settling for just being that guy that's getting that, $12 an hour or whatever it is, $13 an hour and staying there. I just want the big things that I teach is that you can work your way to the top. Just even if you're born in a certain way, or like, I'm from Chicago, grew up poverty, poor, I can bust my butt and be a business owner one day. And, and that's the type of things that I teach these kids. It's not only about wrestling. Wrestling is the best sport to teach you these the hard work and ethics, in my opinion. I've done a lot of sports, but I think wrestling teaches us, not everything's going to go right. And just because on paper you're going to be a state champ doesn't mean it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? We still got to continue to be honest and buckle down and work hard when nobody's watching and do the right things.
Yeah, I'm biased being a wrestling guy, but
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely one of the best vehicles to be able to do the things that you're talking about. So whenever you guys are taking these kids through practice, I don't want to get too technical because we have a lot of business people, a lot of people outside of the wrestling world that listen to this podcast. But tell me just a real quick, like, strength training wise, actual wrestling wise, what are some of the things that you guys do if we were to look at like a typical week?
Typical week. So strength training is 3 days a week in the mornings, from like 9 to 10:30, 9 to 11, and then wrestling wise, we're 5 days a week every afternoon. That's our typical schedule. Working we plan it out just like you'd plan out a business, right? We work in phases. So like from September all the way to beginning of December is our conditioning phase. So like muscular endurance and things like that. And we do a lot of Bulgarian bag stuff with the suplex equipment. And then from December all the way through the end of March is our strength phase, a lot of weightlifting. And then we drop into our competition phases because we're trying to set up our peaks for World Team Trials and a peak for Fargo, So, I mean, just like with business, you want to peak, during certain times of the year. And so you can financially see those gains. And we do it with the same with wrestling. But technique wise, it's a lot of fundamentals in the beginning. I don't care if you're a 4-time or 3-time state champ, you're still going over the shot, just like if I taught it to a 7-year-old. Everything's about fundamentals because, in my opinion, basics wins matches. Being fundamentally sound is going to pay dividends later.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's cool to hear the way you have it, the periodization or the way you have it broken down, so okay, that was just more for me as a wrestling coach and nerd.
Oh, that's awesome.
So all right, mindset, it's huge. So let's say you get one of these guys who's a really good athlete, and all of us get nervous. So tell kids, hey, I competed in over 1,000 matches in my life, got nervous every single time, right? But then you have to learn how to deal with those things. So what are some of the mindset things that you go over? You have one of those kids who, like I said, he's just right on the border of being really good. But when he steps out on the mat, he just doesn't quite reach his ability. Like maybe in the room, he's just killing everybody. And then all of a sudden in the match, he's too anxious or whatever. What are a couple things you guys do for mindset?
The biggest thing that I try to preach to the kids is that, practice, train how you want to compete, right? So it's all about what you do in the practice room. When we get to the tournament, the work's been done. There's nothing to be nervous about. I want them to treat tournaments like it's practice, because it really is in the grand scheme of things. If I'm looking at the Olympics, right? Unless it's the Olympics, then it's not practice. If my goal is the Olympics or the NCAAs, unless it's one of those events, then it's not that, then those are all practice. These are the top tier ones. Everything below is practice. So like teaching the little kids or a high school kid, if we go to an event and we come up short, that just exposes what we need to work on.
Yeah.
And shows the athlete, I'm like, hey, we made mistakes here, here, and here. And now we know how to fix it. And so we go back in that match, we tighten that shot group and make it better, But the biggest thing I preach all the time in the room is train how you want to compete. If you want to shoot to the leg and barely get a takedown, like kind of, we're doing executions and they don't take them all the way down. Okay, expect that when we're in a match, because that's how you trained it. But if we're taking them down all the way, making sure we're getting our two, every time we're in a match, we're going to do it. If we're drilling shot, reshots, and every time Shellman shoots on me and I create an angle and I hit a reshot really quick, I'm going to do it like how I did at practice. I'm going to do it in a match the same way. But I try to put not so much emphasis on the events, Even some of the bigger events like Fargo, in the first year at Fargo, you're a freshman, that's like our practice year, where that's like our mulligan, right? You get to see what it's like. Then after that, we start tightening our group up as much as we can so that we can get the final placement that the kids want.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, because a lot of times people make any kind of desired outcome or goal that they have, right? Maybe it's Fargo, maybe it's state. They make it so huge in their head. And it's like you said, it's practice, right? It's mat time. I mean,
Yep.
We talk all the time with their athletes. A mat's a mat. Like there's a circle, there's a line, you're going to put your foot on it, shake someone's hand and go wrestle. You do the same thing in the room every day. You can step out there in a real competition, do the same thing, but a lot of times kids get overwhelmed. And of course, we all want to win, but then they put pressure on themselves because of that. So it's great to hear a super high level coach and wrestler discuss those things.
Well, and I think wrestling mindset is huge. I used it, but I didn't. When I was competing, like we didn't have this YouTube stuff. Like it wasn't big yet. It was starting to get there, and we didn't have, flow where I can go watch matches and stuff like that. It's all memory based and all experience based. But wrestling mindset, it was like, for me, it's like learned, right? You had to, I'm fortunate to be one that learned on my own. But then I started reaching out and talking to other people, talking to my senior level guys that were ahead of me, like a Brad Veering or an Adam Wheeler or any of those guys, those top tier guys, Jermail Byers, and they're giving me information, and I just start putting it in my head, but it's all mentality. Wrestling is 90% mental. It's a true statement, 10% physical. That mental piece, if you can be mentally tough, you can be great. Right? You just got to continue to grind and deal with the ups and downs. Wrestling's like a roller coaster. And when you look at it as a grand scheme of like a career, you're going to have your little peaks and valleys, but as long as you're working your way up, that's great. But if you do this and you drop all the way down because either you're doing the wrong things in your lifestyle or you're just like, you're playing the woe is me card, then it's going to be hard to get back up, So, for me, between the mindset stuff and then I don't go to church every Sunday, but I'm a very religious guy. I believe everything happens for a reason, and God puts little Y's in your road all the time to see which way you're going to go. And I think if you take the harder route every time, you're going to have the biggest reward at the end of when you're done in life. Right. And so like, when I blew my ACL in 2010, I'm like, oh man, my career, I'm ranked 5th in the world. And I took that approach. Instead, I went that hard route and I busted my butt. And in 4 months, I was competing at the World Team Trials after surgery, and I took 3rd and I didn't have an offensive point scored on me. It's just that I didn't turn him. He didn't turn me, the old rules, and I lost 1-1, that kind of sucked. But at the end of the day, I came back, and then the next year I was on the World Team again, so, and I won the Nationals again. But yeah, I mean, I think mindset is 100% the key to wrestling. And I think coaches, if they can't coach that skill, like there's some athletes maybe I can't touch, like I put them in touch with other people that do the mindset stuff.
Yeah.
With Wrestling Mindset, that company, I put them in touch with Mike Moore or like Steve Davini, whoever I can, it's not what you know to So if
Yeah.
I can talk to you and I'm like, hey, Chad, can you talk to my kid? I've talked to him a million times. Maybe if they hear from you, their mindset will change a little bit. And that's happened with a couple of my athletes where I've put them in touch with those guys, and those athletes, they change their mindset, and they're ranked top in the country right now, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how quick it can change. They have all the physical tools. Yeah. Sometimes you need that mental shift. So, well, let's jump over to, you own Betterman Elite. So we have your wrestling club, but then you also own gold medal gear, which is a company that you have, you and your wife, and you guys, you make everything, right? So you just have new wrestling shoes that came out, or they're coming
Yeah,
out.
we got some new shoes, the pilots that just came out. Um, Kind of modeled after the old school shoe, like the old Jordan colors and things like that. But I spent a lot of time designing the grip, which was awesome, for Greco, for me, being a Greco guy. But yeah, gold medal gear has been awesome. We started 4 years ago, and it's we're in our fifth year right now, and sales have been good every year. And I started it originally kind of supplement income, but also to have cheaper apparel for my own wrestlers. Taking care of my team. Um, I was sponsored by some of the biggest companies in the country in the sport, and there's little things that with nickel and diming, art fees or turnaround times, or maybe you only had 2 girls on the team but they wanted a minimum of 7, but you ordered 40 singlets for the boys. You're like, hey, that doesn't make sense. And so we started a company where we don't charge for art. We don't Shipping is free on all team orders. Free online store year round, where we don't close the store. We have no minimums. There's no minimums. Most companies have minimums, and our turnaround is 3 weeks or less. We've been very fortunate and very blessed that the company keeps thriving and growing. No social media marketing, which has been, other than I have an assistant, we have a full-time employee now, and she's put some stuff on Instagram and stuff on Facebook sometimes, but nothing where we're doing actually SEO, where we're like, targeting certain audiences and things like that, so it's been really good. Definitely blessed that the company's grown so much. And I think it's because we're an honest company and that we take care of our customers. Not to say the other companies don't, but some of these companies get so big so quick, and, they forget about all the little guys, and things are just moving quick, and they got a lot of overhead and stuff like that. So things get hairy really fast.
As a coach, and sometimes people, they see coaches and they just think wrestling, right? Or football or basketball, whatever sport you're doing. They see the product, but they don't see all the behind the scenes. They don't know that I'm doing 3 hours of paperwork every Monday morning, and or a lot of times on Sunday night and things like that. And even team gear is one of those things, and it's a big deal what you were saying, because sometimes I don't need to get 40 things, or I don't need to get 80 things. So not having a minimum is huge. The artwork fee, yeah, those fees can add up quick. If we're toward the end of the season and I want to be able to get something in, and I know I love to get special things for our team. I know as an athlete, whenever coach got a new set of singlets, or even if it was just a t-shirt, you walk in like, hey, got you guys these t-shirts. Like, I was motivated. I was pumped. And we're wrestlers, we're weird. Like, I would probably ride a bull for a t-shirt, it's like, things like that. But those things are all huge for coaches when they're looking at their programs. And then if you're going to put something out there, and last, it's got to be good product. And then I think, like most things, building relationships. And so you guys doing that is huge. So if I know, like, hey, I can go to gold medal gear, and these guys actually care about us and care about our program, you don't have to have as much social media marketing. You don't have to have because I'm going to be loyal. I'm always going to come back to you guys because of that. So those are good business principles. Those are good human.
It's been awesome. It's been word of mouth, and taking care of the customers. And, our singlets start at $50, and majority of the time I'll discount everything, just because I want to help. I understand what it is to be a coach, and you're like trying to keep it cheap for your wrestlers or for your program. You only have so much money raised, or the school only gives you so much money, and you're like, oh, how can I make it work? A lot of times, especially I'm a sucker because coming from inner city and not having much, and the way I grew up, when teams are like, yeah, we, our kids, we come from a impoverished community, I'll help these guys out all the time. But it's been good. I'm very fortunate. I'm not trying to be, cajillionaire doing it. You're right. I'm just trying to help teams out and, and be able to, we make a little money, which is, again, I'm retired military, so I get paid from that, but I make some money from the gear company. And then all my Betterman Elite stuff is all nonprofit, and we're not on paycheck or payroll. So that just goes straight back into the club. So it's been, definitely been blessed, to be able to have these experiences and grow as a person, as a human, and then grow as our companies are growing. So it's been good.
Yeah, that is a blessing, absolute blessing, and helping programs out like that. I mean, as a company, you want to be able to make a profit, and you got to be able to keep going. But yeah, I fully get those things. So, well, I kind of have some speedy questions like to do here at the end, but I want you to expound upon these as much as you want. So,
Okay.
the first one is, what's your genius? I believe everybody has God's given people different gifts and talents and abilities, different geniuses, right? One guy is great at math, another guy can take your engine apart and put it back together. So for you, and this isn't bragging, I want you to be straight up with me. What do you feel like is your genius?
Um, if I bring it back to like the sport of wrestling, like my genius is being like being able to break technique down. Like I used to joke when I competed, I was like Chris Benoit, in WWE. Like I'm the man of 1,001 moves, or the man in, and that's what I would always say. I'd walk around because I know I love technique, and I love learning new technique all the time, and I love just keep adding it to the toolbox. And then, and teaching these kids, or I don't go out there and try to teach all the fancy stuff, but, sometimes we do teach something new that's going to work. But I love being able to someone say, hey, coach, I saw this move here. And I'm like, all right, let's break it down. I watch it and I'm like, all right, boom, got it. And I start teaching the technique instantly. And then I'm able to add to it and change it. I think Flo does they used to do the big move Monday or big move Wednesday, or the behind the dirt, and Mike Mall posted one from this Arizona State guy that does like a high crotch, but then he goes to the outside leg. I was like, oh, I really like that. And so I'm working with it. I'm teaching kids. We're teaching that. And I'm like, wait, I see something else. And then I go into like a judo throw. I keep that leg up and keep the arm, take that back step in, and I kick them in the hip and do a big throw. And now we call it the shine. We call it death in Japanese. And so the kids love it. But it was, I think my genius is being able to understand wrestling technically better than a lot, than most, and break it down. I always tell the kids that wrestling's an easy sport. It's all about the details.
Yeah.
Learning technique is very easy. You just got to pay attention to details. If you're staring at butterflies on the ceiling, you might not see the detail. As a person, though, my genius, I would say, is just always hustling, I guess, always on the move. I'm always able to adapt. Maybe the hustle is not the word, but adapting. I could adapt very fast, adapt under pressure, adapt under fire. So I've been fortunate with both of those skill sets.
Excellent. I'm a technique nerd, so everything you were saying, I love. So yeah, same thing. All right. The next one, I call these the 3 H's. So I want you to tell me about, and again, you can pick one or you can just give me a little of each. A hero, a hardship, or a highlight in your life. Hero, hardship, highlight.
Hero, hardship, highlight. I guess with the hero portion, I really don't. I guess there's no like big heroes where I would chase one. I always like watching the superheroes and stuff like that, right? That always gets me going. But just seeing people do stuff for other people, I look at those people as heroes. Can't pick one specifically, but do it with nothing getting back from it. They're not getting anything back from it. The hardship is I grew up a very rough life. My mom was a single mother, and she had left my dad, and she lived a crazy life. She had me when she was 19 years old and was partying and all that stuff. And, growing up with no food in your belly and things like that, you hear these stories, or like, your mom trying to get change together so we can get macaroni from Aldi's and stuff like that. My biggest hardship would probably be stuff like that. And, living in motels, or going from, being evicted from house to house and things like that. And people don't know that story, maybe because of the lifestyle that I have now, because we're financially stable and things like that. But that would be the biggest hardship is, growing up with a single mother that's doing everything she can, and putting herself on the line multiple times so that we can eat would be my biggest hardship. And then the last one, what was the last one again?
Highlights.
Highlights.
Yeah.
For a wrestling career, I guess the biggest highlight, I was very fortunate to be a part of the world team that won the Worlds in 2007. And it just happened by default, just because Joe Warren, previous world champ at the time, he had some issues with USADA, and they came back and they said, "Hey, you're on the world team," and that was a really cool highlight. But then building my career off of that was pretty awesome. To build my career off of it and see what hard work can get you. I was in the U.S. Open Finals 8 times. So, I guess that's a good highlight of my career. And then having all those international medals is a good highlight. But, I think the biggest highlight in life now for me is my kids and my family. That's on the wrestling side, but my kids and my family are the biggest thing. Watching my kids grow, and my son's in wrestling, and my oldest, he's 9, in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and he's doing all the sports and he loves it, and watch him succeed and fail and be there for all the little pieces of it. And then, watching my wife, if I was going to pick a hero on the family side, it'd probably be my wife, because she does stuff that I couldn't do. Like, I don't understand how these women can do things like they do. And you're like, man, I don't understand. If you're gone for like a couple of days. I'm like losing my mind. She's coaching high school and coaching the middle school, and I'm like, how are you doing this? And then dealing with a family with 4 kids. So, but yeah, I think that's, again, I've had a very blessed lifestyle in life. Even with the hard beginnings and the hardships, that only made me tougher.
Yeah.
Maybe gave me the experiences I need to be successful in life.
Sir, absolutely. So, well, where can we, and I'll make sure that I put, I'll link in the show notes, all of your websites. So Gold Medal Gear, Betterman Elite, I'll put those things in there. But where can we follow you or find you on social media?
Facebook, Instagram. I'm not good with the Instagram stuff. I'm better on Facebook. But if you want to look me up personally, you can add me as a friend. If you want to look up Betterman Elite Wrestling, that's on Facebook. So is Gold Medal Gear. Gold Medal Gear has a website. We're got to clean it up, but we have a lot of team websites we do that are subsidiary off that. And then Betterman Elite, we have BettermanEliteWrestling.com, but we have a new one. I believe it's called Betterman Elite Academy.com. And that's our nonprofit, our 501c3. And so if you want to go check on that site, and if we have any people that are looking to donate, we'd love to get any donors that we can, and continue to grow the sport as much as we can and get more opportunities to these kids.
Absolutely. So, Joe, man, I appreciate you taking your time to be on here, sharing your wisdom and your story with us. And, anybody who is interested in getting your wrestler highly trained, and, we just talked about it. I mean, the mental side, the technical side, and then lifestyle, to become the best human being can be. Joe is one of the best guys I know to get in touch with, whether you live in the area and you can get them there, or let them talk to Joe at some point. It's phenomenal. So again, thank you for being on.
Awesome, Chad. Thank you again. And anytime, we love to have you come out to Colorado Springs, bring the team out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, everybody. This has been another episode of Coach B's Perspective. May God bless you, smile upon you, give you peace. Till next time, we're out.